Welcome back to Message Crawler Video Manual. In this chapter, we're talking about Teams. Now this video is a little different. It's going to be a shorter chapter because I don't have any sample data to show you. I'm sure you know it's really difficult to get data that you can actually share online and show it to others. So for this one, I'm just going to put a screenshot of the settings screen and I'll talk about those settings. So yes, this video is slightly different. Let's get started. When you get Teams data, you have a few options. When you export it from Microsoft, you can export just Teams messages, or you can include additional components. And I generally recommend just including messages and not to include anything else. However, the tool will support data export in PST or MSG file formats. And that's what the first option is. It is a path to a folder where PSTs or MSGs are stored. Do not put a path to the actual PST, but a path to the folder where PST is stored. This tool will scan through multiple PSTs and import them in at the same time. Next option we have is save attachments to. Now, this is where attachments are going to be saved that are extracted from the body of a message or downloaded through the link to the internet. And we'll talk about that when we get to checkboxes below. And the third path we have here is attempt to link file from SharePoint folder. Whenever you get downloads from Teams, sometimes you can get a folder with files, and that folder contains any files that were linked by a text message. So if somebody says, take a look at this document, they're not sending the document, they're sending a link to SharePoint. And what the export does is it will grab that file from SharePoint, save it to a folder. Okay. And what Message Crawler can do is it can actually associate that file instead of the link inside the body of the message. So that's what you put there. Next, we have numbering. Again, numbering doesn't matter too much. It's nice to number things when you deliver into a client. However, if you're going to be processing in relativity right away, numbering doesn't make too much difference because relativity will assign its own numbers. So now let's talk about checkboxes below. Attempt to save images from message body. So if there are any pictures inside the message itself, sometimes they could be, they're usually like emojis, different pictures embedded. So it'll save them out and make them into attachments. Next option is saved linked files. So this is where if it sees a hyperlink to a picture that exists online, it will try to go online and download that file and save it as an attachment. And same thing if there is a link that points to share file or SharePoint, and it'll identify that's the link, and then it will go to the folder we specified in the third text box, and it will try to see if that file exists there. If it exists, it'll pull that file in. If it doesn't, it'll just give you a hyperlink. So there's going to be some kind of indication if it couldn't find the file. So like we talked about in the beginning of the video, you can export a lot of different data into those PSTs. And if your PST is mixed with emails and something else, well, that's not going to give you good RSMF conversion. You don't want to put body of an email as a body of a text message. It's going to give you really bad results. So what this option does is it filters out anything that's not a text message. And whatever is not a text message, you should be using normal processing, relativity processing, whichever. And the way software identifies what is text message and what is not is the presence of Skype thread ID. It's a MIME field. I believe it's called a MIME field. It's one of those Outlook PST fields that are sort of hidden on the front end, but it's actually embedded inside the message. So if the field is present, that means that's a text message. It's suitable for RSMF conversion. It should be pulled in. If you uncheck the checkbox, then everything will get pulled in, and you may have a lot of garbage or data that is not really convertible to RSMF. But the option is there so you can import and look. And the final option is skip duplicates. So in the most recent exports, I've noticed that Microsoft exports data by custodian, and you can have one PST with 2 or 3 custodians, and each custodian could have same messages. So you could be looking at data for just one custodian or the second or the third, and you'll see complete conversation, which is great unless you load them all together. Well, in that case, you wind up with a lot of duplicates. And this is what this option does. It'll use from to timestamp and text to build a hash value and compare it against what was already loaded before. And it will eliminate any duplicates if found. I think that's a really great option to have because you don't want to be looking at those duplicate messages. However, it could make it more difficult to filter data by custodian because it will, of course, load data for just one custodian. So think of it as a global deduplication. I hope this chapter answers any questions you have about Teams data. If you have any more questions, please contact me, nick@hashtaglegal.com, and I will see you on the next chapter of Message Caller Video Manual.